What's going on, everybody? I just saw a meme online that gave me another topic to talk about, and I only got about 5 minutes before I got to get out of here, so I'm just gonna make this very quick. But I'm just gonna dig into crates for a player that's no longer in the league right now, but somebody that I watched a lot of. We've forgotten about somebody that had a very, very short prime, but in his prime he went off, and was considered one of the top 2 point guards in the league during his era, his prime. Um, Darren Williams. Darren Williams. It's a guy that a lot of people have forgotten about. D. Will was a problem. The meme that I just saw was a picture of a bunch of point guards. It was like 6 of them. I'll name a few of them. Probably can't remember them all, but it was like Chauncey Billups, CP3, D. Will, Steve Nash, um, so on and so forth. So you get the point. Those were the gist of what they had, and they said who was the best one-on-one point guard. Um, and when I look back on all those players, they had a bunch of guys who could do point guard duties better than D. Will, pass the rock better than D. Will, orchestrate a basketball better. Some may have had better careers, obviously. Accolades, maybe one, he didn't. But what D. Will had in his prime that none of those guys had was a huge, huge body that he knew how to throw around. The problem with D. Will is the same thing I used to hear people talk about with Carmelo Anthony. When you look at them play, it didn't look like they dish out punishment. But when you had to guard them dudes, it was like trying to guard a boulder because they were so damn strong. And D. Will had very good handles, very good one-on-one play type of stuff. He could turn his back to the basket. He had a back to the basket game. And he was just really, really good. He could shoot the ball extremely well, drove to the basket, hit at a high clip, free throws, all of that. So when you think about the skill set of a one-on-one player, you're not taking into account what they do to make others better, because that's really what a point guard's about. You start judging point guard, you start thinking about how well they run their system, run the plays of the team, or extension of the coach, et cetera, et cetera. But in this case, we're talking about who do you want to pick who can go up against another guy his size and dominate. Most of those point guards that I mentioned, they weren't defensive point guards. If they were defensive, they were slight. Some of those guys weren't the greatest shooters. Some of those guys were not the greatest finishers. They had great intangibles in other areas that helped them become great point guards, but they didn't have those one-on-one skills to face up against one guy and beat him off the dribble or back him down or whatever necessary without any help, without anybody to bail you out with a pass, no, without anybody to help get you in your spot, just to create for yourself. It was Darren Williams. Darren Williams was the best player in that particular category of the players mentioned. And it's one of those things where it's like his prime only lasted a couple minutes. I don't know why that was. He played for the Utah Jazz, and it was him and Carlos Boozer running things, AK-47. They had a nice little team, Derek Fisher. And they were able to get to the Western Conference Finals one year. Very, very good Utah team. Darren Williams ended up on the Nets. That tenure wasn't so good, and then he just kind of faded away. He went to Dallas, I believe, and then that was pretty much it. So his career only lasted, honestly, about 8 years or something like that, maybe 7 years. I don't think it was very long. But during his prime, it was him and Chris Paul. Who do you want? Like, it was a toss-up between those two. And a lot of the time, people would pick Darren Williams. Now, I always thought that Chris Paul was the better player. But at the end of the day, Darren Williams, when it comes to one-on-one, there was no question. He had the edge on just about everybody, point guard-wise, at that era. So, yeah, man, I do remember some things that Darren did, things that stood out where you'd be like, that's a bonehead play. Stuff where he just do stuff like dribble out of bounds or mess up on the clock, forget the shot clock timer or whatever. Little stuff like that would be heady stuff. You'd be like, what? Why did that happen? He did those kind of things from time to time. Just make you scratch your head. But overall, he was a sound point guard with a physicality about him, a strength about him, a big body size that he would throw around. He would push guys around in that era. They would not just want to stand in front of him and take a charge from that guy. He was tough, and boy, could he get streaky. He was a streaky shooter. When he get hot, and light your head up. Rebounded very well for his size as well. Just an overall fantastic point guard. And of course, when you're talking about point guards. All of those things that I didn't want to take into account, he was really good at those things. He could orchestrate a team. He could make sure that his guys got the passes that they needed. He could run and be an extension of the coach and stuff. He was very good at all of that. So he was the type of guy where it sucked seeing him fall off because I felt like, to me, it felt like it was one of two things. Either he wasn't taking care of his body or he just lost love for the game. And I don't say that lightly. It's just what it looked like to me. It just looked like the guy kind of faded away. He looked like he smoked cigarettes. I don't know. But just looking at a person's lips, you can tell when they smoke. He looked like he smoked a lot. So I don't know if that had anything to do with anything at all. But it seems like his career just disappeared. And to my knowledge, he didn't really have an absorbent amount of injuries that would just take him out. He just kind of lost himself in the league and just left. I mean, he made his money, so I don't know. But to me, it just seems like when you think about some of the players of that era, he was one of those guys whose careers looked like it was headed to a Hall of Fame level and just never even got there. So it was very strange. But he made his All-Star teams. I think he made a couple of them, probably about 3 of them or something like that, maybe even more. And like I said, was extremely elite during his tenure as a prime basketball player. So yeah, man, I want to mention him just at random. You know, sometimes it's easy to get caught up in today's basketball world and talk about what's going on now because it's so much more relevant than being revisionist. But I have so much useless NBA experience / knowledge from my time of watching the game as a young man and as a youngster to now it's like, you know, I might as well just bring up some old guys just because I know a lot more about them than I know about these guys of whom I don't watch as much, unfortunately, in this era. But still love the game, man. And yeah, thank you guys for watching. My name is BDF. I'm out.